Morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday to you. And as you know, all this week we are looking at the lives of famous people who could inspire us, or sometimes they're not famous actually. You might never have heard their names before, but these are people who've all done something really important with their lives, which is what I hope every single one of you is going to do. And there are so many different ways to do that. I'll tell you the story of somebody in a moment. But let me ask you some questions first of all. Have a think about it. When you're older and when you have your own career and your work, put your hand up if you think you would like to do something that involves computers or computing. Let's have a look. Oh, lots of you. It's certainly true that many jobs into the future, when you're at the age when you go and get jobs, will be to do with some kind of computing, won't they? Whether it's programming or gaming or vlogging or YouTubing, all of those different things. Now, let me have a look again. Put your hands up again. Okay, now teachers, have a look at those hands up in your class. How many of them are boys? I bet quite a few. I might be wrong. Because sometimes people think that working with computers and things is a bit of a boys thing, and it's not. And you might have just what the world needs, whether you're a boy or a girl, to go into that kind of work. I want to share with you a little photograph before I start today's inspiring story. And it's a photograph of someone really important to me. So I'm just going to turn my camera round. There we go. Here it is. Okay, so this is a photograph. That lady there, this was before she had me. This is my mum. And my mum did a really amazing thing. She was a computer programmer, and I don't think there were any women, certainly in the big place that she worked, who did that job. And she was the first assistant project leader working in computers in the gas board as it was then. And that was a really massive achievement for her. And I can remember her telling me about that, and it's something that she's really proud of because she was really good with computing and with numbers and with logic, and she was brilliant at that job, and that became her career. Now, I don't have that talent. She didn't pass it on to me. I got lots of other bits, but I didn't get that one. But I often just think how proud I am of her all that time ago in the 1960s, of going into a man's world as it was then, and being brilliant at a job that had traditionally been thought of as just for boys and men. And I'm going to tell you the story of somebody else, a bit like my mum, but quite a bit earlier. And this person, Ada Lovelace, I'm going to read her story today, did something many years ago that is still used today in the world of computers and computing. So we're going to hear her story. So, little people, big dreams, Ada Lovelace. Ada Lovelace was born in England to a mother who loved maths and a father who loved poetry. There she is as a baby. Looks like her mother there, a really good mathematician, and there's her dad, who was a writer. Wonder what she'll go on to do. Ada's father left England when she was very little and never returned. Her mother was away a lot too. So young Ada spent a lot of time at her grandparents' house with a cat called Mrs. Puff to keep her company. Left alone, Ada's imagination took flight. She started to dream of machines with wings that could move in any direction. So she was a very creative person. Perhaps you are too. Ada always thought about things that she'd like to invent, new things that she'd like to bring to the world. I'm not like that at all. I'm not like Ada at all. But you might be. You might be an inventor. You might be interested in creating something new. But when Ada's mother came to visit, she didn't like her imaginary inventions. She wanted her to concentrate on maths and logic and nothing else. I wish Ada had had our school prayer and remembered that give us the strength to follow our dreams. Sometimes life can be hard when we try to follow our dreams, but if it's what we want to do, we should persevere. There she is. Looks like she's designing some kind of flying machine there with a cat to keep her company. Luckily, Ada liked numbers and she was very good at solving mathematical problems. When she was 14, Ada became sick. She had to spend a lot of time resting in bed, but she kept studying, inventing and dreaming. Poor Ada, but she used the time when she wasn't feeling well to carry on with all of her ideas. Her head was full of them. She was really gifted. After 3 long years, Ada got better. She went to London and was introduced to a famous mathematician called Charles Babbage. Mr. Babbage told Ada he was building a big machine, and by a big machine, children, it took up an entire room in a large house. And this machine could do one thing, and it was the first one in the world. It could add together sums. It was the first calculator. Look how big it is. Now these days, this is Elisa's calculator for her calculations. But at that point, the first calculator, the first computer, would take up a whole room or a whole floor in a factory or a house. They were massive, but of course for Ada, she was really excited by it. The calculator could do sums so quickly, it was like magic. Most people couldn't understand how it worked, but Ada was fascinated and thought she could use maths to make the calculator do even more amazing things. So she was a thinker, was Ada. She really wanted to see how far she could take this. She wrote a code made up of numbers that would tell the calculator what to do. There she is, look, she's still got a cat helping her out. Creating something entirely new. Imagine how amazing that would feel to invent something entirely new. Ada didn't know it, but she had just invented the language that computers use today. So even today, the computers in our computer suite, your laptops, everything like that, still uses the special language that Ada worked on all those years ago. Little Ada, who loved both numbers and poetry, had become the world's first computer programmer. She showed that when you use science and imagination, your dreams can take flight. Well, I don't know if my mum had ever heard of Ada Lovelace. I'll have to ask her that when I talk to her later on today. But I like to think that my mum followed in Ada's footsteps there. And maybe she did know about her. Maybe she was an inspiration to my mum and how she became a computer programmer. So look at these pictures. These show you how long ago it was. 1845 there. And then going all the way back to when Ada was born in 1819. So to do something so advanced all those years ago that we still use today, I think is very, very inspiring. So we've had a naturalist, somebody who inspired us because he's worked in the natural world. That was David, wasn't it? Is that like you? Do you have a passion for animals, for conservation, for looking after this planet that we live on? We've had Rosa Parks, who had the courage to stand up for good. Is that you? Do you want to make a real difference to the world in that way and make things better, more equal, fairer? Perhaps you could go on to have some kind of career in politics or law or lots of other different things. Or perhaps you're like Ada, boys or girls. Perhaps you're a genius. Perhaps you're an inventor. Perhaps you're going to be a scientist who invents a new vaccine or a treatment. Perhaps you are going to cure cancer and come up with a cure for that. Perhaps you're going to design a new computer programming language. There are so many things left to invent and design, and the world needs you. So keep thinking, children. Whose footsteps will you follow in? Give us the strength to follow our dreams. That's what we're trying to think about all this week. Have a good Wednesday, everybody. Bye for now.